Can you see?
I can see a lot of guns in here. Okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah. As I told you, I reviewed the sources that the project suggested, and I found very interesting to learn about the role of gun manufacturers and their opinion on gun control. And it was not a surprise to learn that they are against gun control. And I would like to show you what I found on the news. I reviewed a report prepared by a committee of the United States congressmen this is recently, this is from 2022. It shows the number of guns sold in the United States from year 2000 to 2021. And as you see, in 21 years, 264 million handguns and other guns have been sold, only for individuals or companies. And that is, it does not include, for example, the Army, the Navy, the policemen, and other armed institutions. This is just individuals or companies.
Ooh.
And and this means that 8 out of 10 Americans have bought a gun in the last 2 decades. And this is the highest average in the world. And this means that a random American buys 7 times more guns than any citizen in the European Union, and 40 times more guns than any citizens in Asia. And I also have data from the Philippines.
Wow, tell me that.
Only 4% of Filipino citizens bought guns. 4%.
Yeah.
4%. In the United States, it is 80%. So that's a whole too many different.
What about in Peru?
We are like Philippines, between 3 and 4%.
3 and 4%.
And also interesting data is that every time a shooting occurs in some part of the United States, that led the gun sales to increase. So every time people see a shooting on the news, they run to buy a gun.
Really?
Yes. If you see the data, if you see the moments where shooting happens, that in that month the gun sales increase a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
But that was about the numbers of guns sold, and this is about the profits. This committee also prepared and estimated the profits obtained in recent years from only 2 gun manufacturers. This is not all the manufacturers, but these are only 2. And they earn between $100 and $500 per year each.
$100 to $500 each
per year, each of them.
Yeah. Okay.
There are other companies that are not here, but and this only corresponds to its sales in the United States and not abroad. So I think my first conclusion is that there's a lot of money at stake, and this forces gun manufacturers to make sure that this business doesn't stop. Then there is another report. It was very interesting. by Alison Jordan for American Progress. And she explains how is the opinion of gun manufacturers about gun control. And this report said that these manufacturers tend to make lobbies to install many myths on the public opinion, and they try to blame the shootings to other factors, but not on the free sale of guns. And this reporter brought up several myths, but I would only want to present two of them.
Okay.
And the first one is about mental illness is the cause. On this, she explained that this is a myth because there are FBI studies that only 4% of violence unleashed in the United States, 4%, correspond to people that have any mental illness, 4%. That same study indicates that only 8% of the perpetrators of shootings in the United States had a clinical history of mental illness. And the other 92% were mentally well. Therefore, the participation of mentally ill people is reduced in regarding to mass shootings. This photo shows Nicolas Cruz, Adam Lanza. These two are perpetrators of a shooting in Florida in 2018.
What year?
That 2018. 2018, and they killed 17 people.
Huh? Just these two?
Just these two. And they did show signs of mental illness.
Okay.
But there were other 11 shootings that year where the perpetrators were mentally good or well. So the participation of mental illness in mass shooting is reduced.
Okay.
She also mentioned that this is not common because in other developed countries, the probability, for example, that a woman will die from a shooting in the United States is 20 times greater than any other developed country. And there are 40,000 people murdered in the United States on average, and this is like 20 times larger than the whole European Union. So United States have a very serious problem.
Yeah.
Well, and finally, there's a second myth that gun manufacturers want to tell that we should or they should arm schools or in any other public places. And that is a myth also. This means not only to arm the officer, security officer, but also to install security cameras, to set up metal detectors, put bulletproof windows, and other controls to prevent shootings. And she showed that this is not true. Since last year there were 7 mass shootings in the US. All of them were having armed wards. The picture in the right is Rob Elementary School. That was the last. Sorry. That was the last shooting in the United States last year.
Okay.
and it was heavily guarded. It was a very heavily guarded school.
Okay.
So in conclusion, I think that where there are more guns, there are more shootings.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal conclusion. And the other is that profits for gun manufacturers are very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So their lobbies are strong too. And they are like blaming other factors as the causes for shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my presentation.
Wow. Thank you, Milton. Now, before I get to go to my comments, I have like a few questions for you. So you actually have presented in here two myths about, gun control and all that. Now, one of that, no, not gun control, shooting. Okay. One of that is, okay, I'm interested about myth number one. Okay, and it says something about mental health issues. Now, yeah, mental illness is the cause for mass shooting like that. Now, I wanted to know your side, Milton, okay, on what you think, okay, of this myth. Do you think this is really just a myth, or do you think this has basis? Mm-hmm. In your
No,
opinion.
yeah, no, I think it's a myth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the that news, that report, that report mentioned that only 4% of perpetrators
Mm-hmm.
had some mental illness,
Okay.
um, and there are other 96% that not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think that if that were the problem, um, other countries would have also that problem, but that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Even
Okay.
developing countries like Peru, uh, we never had a mass shooting on a school, as I remember, never.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is about other problems, and mental illness here in Peru, for
Mm-hmm.
example, it is not well treated. I
Okay.
would say that in other countries like United States, mental illness is
Mm-hmm.
better treated. So I think this is not one of the main causes.